thunders. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome if you're new here. For today's video, I'm going to be talking about the best books I read in 2020. If you're interested, I do have a worst books video. I'll link in the cards and down below. But this video is a lot more positive, and we're going to be talking about the books that just meant something to me in 2020. And just before we get started, I want to apologize for the background noise. I started filming and it started to pour, so sorry for that. Hopefully it will be aesthetic and kind of fun and cozy, so let's just hope. This is in no particular order except for the last book. The last book was the best book of 2020. So let's do this. First book in my best books list is a middle grade, and it's called A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. Oh my god, this made me sob. So this story follows this little boy who's struggling because his mother has cancer, and before he goes to sleep every single night he hears a monster outside of his window, and this monster wants him to see the truth and wants him to accept the truth. And this took such a different turn from what I was expecting. I thought that this was gonna be like kind of creepy, but this was just an emotional roller coaster. The artwork is absolutely beautiful. What? It's stunning. I read this book in one sitting and I want to reread it. I'm not a big reread person, but this just deserves it because it has such a beautiful meaning and a message. It's just amazing. I definitely recommend it. The second book in my list is actually a poetry book for a video that I ended up not finishing. I scratched that video idea, but I'm glad that I was able to read this one. And it's called Every Word You Cannot Say by Ian Reid. I love poetry books. They just mean a lot to me, and wow, this was so beautiful. This book talks about everything we're not able to talk about or express, such as emotions, feelings, thoughts. It's not really that popular, and I feel like it should be because it's made in like I don't want to say mixed media, but they're all in different formats. So if you're into that, I recommend it. It also made me cry. I do think there might be some trigger warnings. I don't remember now because I read this like the beginning of the year, so make sure to check out some trigger warnings for this book before you get into it, but I definitely recommend it, and this cover is absolutely beautiful too. So this year I set a goal for myself as a thriller fan to read more of the thriller author Stephen King, and I was able to accomplish that. I read 3 of his works. So I read 1922, Carrie, and The Shining, and these are on my favorites list because they are so unique and so different. They're like such special thrillers. From these, my favorite one would probably be maybe The Shining, but I loved all of them almost equally, and I had so much fun reading them. Even though some of them are kind of chunky, I just couldn't stop reading them, and I wanted to finish them in like a day. These books are amazing, and he's the thriller author for a reason, and I definitely want to read more of his books this year. Hopefully I'll be able to do that too. And wow, I can't recommend him more. 1922 follows this man who's writing a confession of how he killed his wife with his son. Carrie follows this girl who is bullied by her classmates in high school, and what they don't know is that she has telekinesis. And The Shining follows his family who moves into the Overlook Hotel for 6 months to be its caretaker, but the hotel starts to mess with their minds and they end up doing horrible things. So I couldn't recommend these more, they're amazing. This next book is from a genre that I don't usually read, and that's fantasy, and the book is The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. I don't actually own a physical copy, which hurts my soul, but I'll get one soon. And wow, I do have a live show where I talk about this book with my friend Kayla because this was one of our book club picks, so I'll link it in the cards if you want to check that out. But this book was so amazing, and I'm not a fantasy reader, and this was able to pull me in and made me want to keep reading even though it's like 600 pages long. So this book follows these 3 sisters who live in a world where women don't have rights and witches are being haunted and murdered, And they decide that that's really messed up, and they decide to create a group where they fight all of these norms, and it's just amazing. I loved the concept of this book. It's so unique, where we have spells and nursery rhymes. The characters are so well done. We have a lot of character development throughout the book. The sisters are amazing. Their bond is so much fun to read about. And I loved, because we follow 3 POVs, I love that so much. I was interested in the story, I wanted to finish it, and I definitely recommend it. The next genre in my list is horror, and I ended up reading We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson this year. This book follows these 2 sisters called Mary and Constance, and they both live in a house far, far away from the city, and everyone in the city judges them because they think that one of the sisters actually poisoned their whole family, and that's why no one's alive anymore. I love the vibe of this book. It's so creepy, so weird. You feel so uncomfortable while reading it because you have no idea where the story is going, and when the plot twist finally happens, you're like, wait, what? I love this classic. It's definitely worth a read. I had so much fun reading this one, and I definitely recommend it. Why would you not want to read about 2 creepy sisters? I have a lot of sisters book in my list, actually. I feel like I like reading them because I'm a twin, but yeah, I definitely recommend this one. Talking about sisters, The Twin by Natasha Preston was one of my favorite thrillers of this year. This story follows these twins who were separated at birth. One lives with their mom and the other one lives with their dad. The mom sadly passes away, so the sister who used to live with the mom is now being sent to live with the sister who lives with her dad. It goes crazy from there. One of the sisters feels very uncomfortable about the twin being there in the town where she lives. She feels like she doesn't have the best interests in mind, and that she's actually trying to steal her life. This book had my heart racing. I had goosebumps all over. I was sweating. This is my worst nightmare in a book. If you're afraid of people not trusting you or not believing that what you're saying is the truth, this is a nightmare. The ending left me speechless. It was so good. I couldn't recommend this more. Natasha Preston is such an underrated thriller author. She deserves the hype. This year, I tried out a new genre that I always felt really scared about because I always thought I would hate it, and I ended up loving it, and that's dystopian. So this year, I read 3 of the most well-known dystopian series ever. Divergent by Veronica Roth, The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, and The Maze Runners by James Dashner. Out of all of these, I feel like my favorite was probably The Hunger Games, because the rest of the series was just as good as the first book. Different from the Divergent series, where the rest of the books absolutely suck. Hunger Games kept going. I haven't finished The Maze Runners yet, so I don't know if the quality decreases or increases. I don't know. But I just had so much fun reading these books. Definitely a big challenge for me, and I'm so glad I faced it, and I couldn't recommend these more. Not Divergent though. Not Divergent. And the last book before I get to the best book of 2020, we have Breakfast at Tiffanys by Truman Capote. And this edition that I have, it came with 3 other stories as well. So we have Breakfast at Tiffanys, House of Flowers, A Diamond Guitar, and A Christmas Memory. I loved all of them, but I think the ones that stood out to me the most were Christmas Memory and Breakfast at Tiffanys. This is again a classic that I never imagined picking up and reading it, but my mom bought it for me, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna give it a go. I think I like the writing style of this book. I feel like that's why it's on this list. He was talking about such sad things, but I was feeling all warm inside, like I was getting a hug. It was just such a weird feeling, and it just made me want to keep reading. I absolutely loved Breakfast at Tiffanys because I felt like I was getting a big warm hug the whole time reading this, so I loved it. And the last book and the best book of 2020 was a thriller, and I was not expecting to love it as much as I did, and that's The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I said that so wrong. The only thing that bothers me is that I have the ugly cover. This is so ugly, like, no, but you guys probably know the pretty cover. This book shook me. I had goosebumps reading it. I couldn't stop reading it. The plot twist was so well done. This is a thriller to remember why you love thrillers. This had everything I love combined. It had everything I looked for and wanted in a thriller. It just made me remember why thriller is my favorite genre. So this story follows this girl who is found on top of her husband with a gun and is convicted of killing her husband. But she doesn't talk, so she hasn't had a chance to defend herself. So she was sent to a psychiatric unit, and we follow this psychiatrist who wants to make her talk so that he can find out what happened with this girl. This was the best book of 2020 by far. I just fell in love with this. And if you need to pick up any books off this list, this is it. Please, please pick it up. It's so good, and I couldn't recommend it more. I understand why it's hyped now. It deserves the hype. It is amazing. So yeah, you guys, that was the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed. We can finally leave 2020 behind now and focus on 2021. Let me know down below what was your best read of 2020. I would love to know. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below to be part of this wonderful family. I would love to have you here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!